it gave clear violations that the state did not hold Howard County accountable for, which is why they skate through and have no consequences. I want to tell you briefly about my daughter's situation. My daughter was bullied big time. So just to give a brief background of my daughter's history, she was this typical sassy middle schooler who was really excited about starting middle school. She was going into 6th grade at Bonnie Branch, and her main goal was to be popular and have all these friends and, just to do so much. So I was really excited for her to be going into school with this fresh new attitude of excitement. So that first quarter, she did really well. She made some friends and she made the honor roll. But the second quarter, she started to kind of become more withdrawn, and she wouldn't really talk about her friends anymore or school or anything like that. And she would just go in her room and just kind of close her door, and I wouldn't see her for the rest of the night. I mean, she wouldn't even come out to eat sometimes. I was like, something's not right with the situation. So I tried talking to her, but she would not talk to me about it. So just before going back to school after the holidays for the third quarter, that's when she mentioned to me and her grandmother that she was being bullied. She was afraid to go to school. So the first day back to school, I went to the principal, Miss Sherry Jones at the time, and I talked to her about what was going on to let her know my concerns. And she was very, amenable to everything I had to say. She said she would keep an eye out for anything that was going on. So I was like, great, this is good. Later on that year, the bullying continued, and it got to the point where my daughter was really super depressed, and she ended up being hospitalized for suicidal ideations. So I was like, this thing is really serious. So I had another meeting with the principal, and she said, oh, I'm on top of things. I was trusting that she would do what she said she would do. So later, the bullying was still going on, and we had followed the bullying protocol by filling out the bullying forms and whatnot, and nothing was really being done still. So my daughter was still spiraling down into these modes of major depression, and she ended up back in the hospital. So at that point, kids started making fun of her because she told them that she was in the hospital. And I told her, I said, don't tell anybody. And, middle schoolers, they're going to do what they want to do anyway. More than anything, she really just wanted to be popular and have a lot of friends. So one day she was walking, and some of the popular kids came up to her and said, hey, come walk with us or whatever. She was really excited because she was like, oh, they really accepted me, and that was her attitude, feeling that she was being accepted finally. She went along with them, and when she was walking in front of one of the girls at the bottom of the steps, she said that the girl slapped her on the back of the neck real hard and said something smart to her. So of course my daughter was really upset about that, and she ran upstairs to the principal's office, told the principal, and the principal contacted me about the incident, but she told me that it was just middle school girl drama. She never mentioned that my daughter was assaulted. She never mentioned that there was a recording of the incident, which I didn't find out until later. Another student had recorded this whole incident on another student's phone. The principal deleted the video and never told me it even happened. She just said the incident was going to be investigated and it was just middle school girl drama. So that's all I knew. My daughter didn't even tell me about the recording until later. I was really just waiting for the principal's investigation report because I was only told that it was middle school girl drama. I mean, that was really all. So I never heard anything back from her about anything. So later, the principal informed me that she did delete the video because she didn't want it to go on social media. Isn't that like a crime? So meanwhile, the bullying is still going on, and my daughter ended up back in the hospital multiple times, and she was actually in the hospital at the same time as her brother, right down the hall from him. When I went to visit, I was like there, then I was there. So it was kind of depressing for me to have both of my children in the hospital, and there were days that, my son wasn't even at home for Christmas. It was a lot. It was a lot. So at one point, after my daughter was discharged from the hospital, she went back to school, and she was sitting with some other peers talking about her hospitalization. I was like, why are you doing this? So it ended up that one of the girls had decided to spread this rumor and said something about my daughter threatening another student. But the crazy part is the student who she said she was threatening wasn't even at school that day. The staff took that and just like, oh my God, she's been hospitalized, so therefore she may really hurt somebody. So my daughter said she had just gotten to class and she was just waiting for class to begin when the school counselor came and pulled her out of class and took her down to her office. She started bombarding her with all of these questions, and she said she did not have suicidal ideations or anything like that. But the mobile crisis team was called, and then shortly after, the police were called. The police escorted her out of the school building in front of all of her peers and put her in the back of a police car. Kids were looking out the window, all kinds of crazy stuff. So of course, when she got back to school, eventually, that was like the big talk and, the joke. They took her to the emergency room for a psychiatric evaluation, and she had just gotten discharged from the hospital the day before, so she was already cleared. Took her to the hospital for the psych evaluation, and she was banned from coming back to school until she had a threat assessment. but she said she didn't threaten anyone. Of course, Howard County wanted her to go in to see one of their psychiatrists, I guess, so they could like document whatever. But because her doctor didn't do threat assessments, we ended up going to the county's doctor. But I demanded that I was in there with her because I did not want any funny business going on, especially after I knew how Howard County operated. We went in there and she was cleared immediately. She was cleared to go back to school. But after that, at that point, she was so withdrawn. She had lost a lot of time from school and she really had a difficult time getting back on track. Her motivation for school and everything was just gone, literally just gone. She did not want to go back to school ever again. She was so embarrassed to go back to school after that. So we ended up having an IEP meeting. And once we had this meeting, it was determined that she was basically at that point emotionally disturbed. This was what the county labeled her as, but I couldn't really go against it because she really was having this massive depression. So the plan at that time was to transfer her to Ellicott Mills, which was a middle school that had a regional program that offered behavior supports and emotional support. So she never had behavior problems, but the emotional support, I knew she could benefit from that. So that was the only reason I agreed to that. So I didn't want her to go to school riding the special education bus because this was a new school, new beginning, and I didn't want kids to start labeling her and making fun of her. So the county gave me a really hard time about that, and they would not allow her to ride a regular bus. Once she got there, the bullying actually continued because she was on the special education bus. And on top of that, one of the students from Bonnie Branch was transferred to that same program that she was in, and he just started bullying back up again. So now she was at this new school and she was being bullied all over again. So she really had a hard time adjusting. It got to the point where she started taking these long bathroom breaks and these frequent trips to the nurse's office with these pseudo medical complaints because she was trying to avoid her bullies. So during this whole time, we were following the bullying protocol and we filled out the bullying forms, and we had done all of that at Bonnie Branch and at Ellicott Mills. So I couldn't figure out what the heck was going on because there was a bullying protocol in place, but no one was following it.